All right, guys, hey, today we're going to be discussing topwater bites. Man, who doesn't love Whopper Ploppers? But, hey, not everybody might have the right setup. Some of us might fish those ultralights, and we don't want to get left out of that fun. So what's our option? Well, 12 Oaks has a great option. It's the flat-sided mini 75 Whopper Plopper. This thing comes in right at 6 grams. Can you believe that? A lot smaller than those Whopper Plopper 90s and 110s, especially when you're out here in the creeks. You want to do that finesse bite. This is absolutely ideal. So if you guys know me, I fish ultralight and light powered rods built by K Custom Rods. So I can't really throw 90s and well, let me take that back. I can probably throw a 90 on it, but it's just really kind of putting it right at the tail end of that scale for the rod. I don't really need all that extra load on this. So the mini 75 is absolutely ideal. Chris actually had reached out to Kevin, my rod builder, and got the specific specs for this and figured out that this 75 would be absolutely ideal. So if I can throw this on my light power rod, you guys will be able to throw those on your BFS bait casters. So you guys aren't going to miss out on this fall feeding frenzy when these bass and these creeks just go haywire and they're feeding up and getting ready for winter. So, all right, let's get out of here. Test this out. Man, I'm excited about this. All right, let's talk real quick about rod positioning when we're retrieving our fish with these Whopper Ploppers. So one thing you're going to notice with me, when I cast out, you're going to see me keeping my rod tip high. It's going to be in that 90-degree angle. The only reason that I'm doing this until I get a bite, and I can't stress enough, until I get the bite, I'm casting out, I'm retrieving with my rod tip high. I'm doing this specifically because I want to keep my line off the surface of the water. I want to reduce any type of disturbance I possibly can. I only want those fish to be able to see that Whopper Plopper tracking through the water. That's why I do it. But as soon as you see me get a bite, you're going to see me rotate my rod tip down to the side in this horizontal position to get that fish hooked up. Now, at that point, I'm going to fight that fish here in that horizontal plane or lower. You don't want to come above that 45-degree angle for a couple of reasons. So first, let's talk about why you don't want to retrieve your fish at a 90-degree angle. There's several factors here that's working against you. First and foremost, when you've got this rod tip high and you get a bite, you've changed the leverage of how you're retrieving that fish in. So when you're horizontal, you're keeping pressure, consistent pressure on that fish, and you're pulling that fish through the water. You've got more power in this position. When you've got your rod tip up high and you're retrieving that fish, now you've turned this more into a spring, and you're also lifting that fish up out of the water, which is putting more load on your rod, more load on your line, and you're losing power. A lot of times you'll see on ultralights or light power, I can get some really big fish. I've got up to a 21-inch smallie on a light powered rod. That's quite a bit. When you're talking a 20-inch fish on a rod that's 5 foot 9.5 inches, that's quite a bit. But I can do that because I'm properly fighting those fish out to the side where I've got proper power here. I'm keeping tension on that fish. I'm pulling him back. I'm dragging him through the water. I'm not pulling him up. So keep that in mind. Another thing, once again, when you're turning this into a spring, now once again, you're putting additional tension on the tip of your rod. You could snap that. You're also putting additional strain on your line, and you can have a break off, which we do not want. And last but not least, you can also pull that hook out of their mouth. Another thing that you want to think about too is when you're keeping that rod tip high, you're also enabling that fish to be able to jump out of the water and potentially spit your hook. If you're letting them come out of the water, that's where they're going to start thrashing around, and they're experts at getting themselves unhooked. So when you're keeping that rod tip high, you're allowing them to jump. Whereas when you've got this rod tip over here low and to the side, you're dragging that fish down, you're tiring them out more, and you're making it harder for them to be able to come out of water, because now that you've changed your leverage point, that line is now down here. For those fish to come up, they're also going to have to pull that line to be able to come out of the water. And it's very possible that with your rod tip down low to the side, you're steering them down and keeping their nose down in the water, versus whereas if they feel like they're being fought to the surface, well, then they're just going to go ahead and jump out and try to spit your hook. So keep these things in mind. Once again, rule of thumb, you always want to keep that rod out horizontally and do not come over that 45-degree angle when you're retrieving those fish and fighting them in. You're going to find out you're going to have more power doing this, and you can land some really big fish on some of these ultralight setups if you've got the proper technique when you're retrieving your fish in. So keep that in mind. All right. All right, Kingfisher. Making a lot of racket this morning. What's going on, buddy? All right, so as you'll see here, this is what I'm talking about. I'm keeping my rod tip high. I'm keeping it in that 90-degree position as I'm retrieving that lure back. But as soon as I get that bite, I'm going to rotate my rod down to the side and start fighting that fish in. All right, so I get a lot of questions as to why I run the single hooks on the bellies of my Whopper Plopper, and there's kind of a couple reasons there. The biggest reason that I do that is because from a catch and release standpoint, I'm trying to reduce the amount of injury that I'm inflicting on these bass, and if I can catch them with 2 hooks versus 6, there's a lot less likely chance that I'm going to get them in the eye, or just double hook them, or you get them in the side where they can't even swim. So that is the main reason that I do it. So now, something to keep in mind, when you're comparing the River to Sea Whopper Plopper 60, so that's this little guy right here, compared to the Whopper Plopper that 12 Oaks put out, which is the Mini 75, this actually is lighter than this, even though this is considerably shorter. So the River to Sea 60 Whopper Plopper comes in right at 7.08 grams, which, if you're splitting hairs, that puts it above that mark that makes this a BFS lure. I'm splitting hairs. Once again, they say anything below 7 grams, but compared to the 12 Oaks Mini 75, this comes in right at 6 grams on the nose. So for years, I used to fish the River to Sea Whopper Plopper 60 in the creeks. I like the smaller version. I can throw it on my ultralight with no issues. Once I got my hands on the 12 Oaks Mini 75, I never went back to the Whopper Plopper 60 because the Mini 75 fixed a couple issues for me. So I'm going to show you right here on this. With this is another issue that I had with the Whopper Ploppers. A lot of times you can see right there, even just their treble hooks alone can get locked up on the back of this tail like that. You can see as right there. So sometimes you can snap it funny, and then that one cast that counts, you can tell it's tracking funny across, and that's because that prop is locked up on your hook. Now I exacerbate the problem when I switch over to single hooks, because now that shorter profile, that little bit longer shank hook will actually get connected. They'll get hooked up on each other. So once I got my hands on this version, the 12 Oaks, I'm gonna put them side by side so you can see right here. You can see where the hooks are. You can see that the 12 Oaks hook is gonna be hanging down nearly, what I would say, 3/4 of an inch lower than the River to Sea, and that makes all the difference. So when I go to these single hooks on the belly, they can't get connected with each other. You can see right there, even though, you know, a treble, the normal treble that comes in here is not even going to get caught on this. Now, every now and then, my wide gap will get caught on there, but that's just kind of a trade-off that I'm willing to accept. But it doesn't connect as far as the hooks go. And when I would put single hooks on the River to Sea Whopper Ploppers, they would get connected all the time. Once again, sometimes you go in these pockets and you might have 2 or 3 casts, and sometimes you might get in a pocket and you got one chance to land that really nice smallie that's sitting in that pocket, and you throw it in there and you get him to commit and your hooks are all locked up and all you see is just your lure just flying out of the water, and that one opportunity just went down the drain. So that's really the kind of the comparison between these two. Now, I think that 12 Oaks actually has a knockoff version of the River to Sea 60. And after talking to Chris, I think he said that this is a tad bit longer, because I was kind of telling him where my issues lie with these things, what issues I had with them. And he was saying that his knockoffs were just a tad bit longer than these. So that may fix it. If it's closer to the Mini 75's length of the body, then I would think that's going to fix it. But once again, this isn't a problem if you're going to leave the treble hooks on these. That's totally fine. It's just I would prefer to fish single hooks. And last but not least, the other issue that I have with it, I'm kind of skittish of treble hooks myself. These smallies have thrashed me a couple times and got these hooks in me, and that's just part of fishing. But it's a lot safer for me when I'm just fishing those wide gap single hooks. So that's the last main issue for me. One, their safety, two, my safety. And so that's how we do it. But once again, if you're going to leave the treble hooks on, you're not going to have any issues on this. Now, I'll show you the difference here. You can see right here, the way I guess this back portion of this, it's really almost next to impossible. You can barely get it there. If I really forced it, you can get it there. But with 12 Oaks, I don't have their treble hooks get locked up on the prop. Whereas with the River to Sea, I do. And this is even more exacerbated when you look at the 90 and 110s. That hook hangs all the way in front of that prop. And too many times I will snap that rod, and it's just, I will inevitably get that treble hook locked up over that prop, and it's coming across and I can see the thing tracking funny, and I can tell that the hook's already locked up on the back of that prop. Well, I hope that information helps you guys if you've got questions. If some of you have ever asked, you know, hey, why does Trey do this? That's the reasoning behind it. Twofold. I'm safer for the fish, less treble hooks, safer for me landing them, and I prefer the 12 Oaks over the River to Sea because this longer profile, it's lighter, so therefore is a win. Plus, that longer profile allows me to put those short shank wide gap hooks on there, and they don't get tangled up on each other. Therefore, I know that if I'm casting in a pocket, I don't have to worry about a malfunction costing me a big fish. Whereas, I feel like that was my biggest gripe with the River to Sea. Too many times, this cost me fish. Now, and I'll also tell you one other thing too, as I'm just now thinking about it. You can see how small these treble hooks are on both the River to Sea and the 12 Oaks, smaller hooks. I feel like I get a better hookup ratio, and I keep up with it when I'm fishing these wide gap hooks. One, you can just see, look how much more bend I have on this hook that allows me to catch the lip of those bigger bass. So if I do have a big 20 that comes up and hits this, it's very likely I've got plenty of gap here that I'm going to be able to get that fish hooked up super easy. And I've always kept up with it. I felt like for sure on the River to Sea, my hookup ratio was terrible. It was not good at all. Sometimes I don't even know if it would be like a 50% hookup ratio on, you know, bites to hookups. But I noticed that when I switched out, and I wasn't even thinking about this, this was just a side benefit, that when I switched out to the wide gap hook, I saw the benefit of, hey, I'm getting hookups a whole lot easier, and I'm not having to wrench into them. I just, once again, you guys will see me, I'm going to roll my rod tip to the side, I'm going to put pressure on it, and generally their fight's enough to get them hooked up. But that's the reason I go to this. And one other thing, if you guys are ever going to try this, once again, make sure you got the orientation of your hooks correct. On the belly hook, you want that hook facing forward like this, so those fish are going to come up and hit that belly. You don't want that hook turned around. It's possible they could push that hook up into the body like this, and then you miss a hook up there. So you definitely want that facing forward. On the back, same thing here. You want to make sure that's oriented upwards so that when those fish come up from below and go to grab that tail, you're going to get them right there on top of that lip. So, all right, guys, if you got any questions, leave me a comment in the section below, and I'll do everything I can. try to always answer questions. It might take me 3, 4, 5 days maybe to get back to it, but I try to answer every comment that you guys leave me because I appreciate your time and thank you guys. So, all right, let's get back to some fishing. We're up here in bluegrass country. We're going to be looking for some of these bluegrass bass up in Kentucky. A buddy of mine that lives next door, he works out in the field, and he dropped me a pin. He said, hey, I was out in the field doing some work and I saw this creek and it looks pretty good. You might want to check it out. So I went on to my recon and bought my fishing license, and here we are. Man, I'm excited to check this thing out. We're going to start out with topwater, and then we're going to finish off the day with finesse, and I'm just hoping to catch some bluegrass bass. So let's see how it goes. I do have a deep section, I think, coming up in maybe about a mile. Oh, ooh, he missed it, but that was a good bite. Let me go back over there. I don't think he felt the hook. All right, let me go back over there. That bass didn't feel the hook, so. Now, a lot of times the Whopper Ploppers, I don't see where they'll give you a ton of tries. I seem like hard plastic, I get fewer tries than soft plastic, but now if they're being aggressive, I definitely have had them give me multiple tries. So I'm not gonna say that's not the case, but for the most part on these hard plastics, it seems like I get fewer repeat tries than I do on the soft plastics, as long as they don't feel the hook. Oh yeah, there we go. That was a good hit. Oh, it's a pretty decent fish. Looks like a decent guy right here. All right, so I'm gonna just let him, he's swimming upstream, so I'm just gonna keep pressure on him. As long as he keeps coming towards me, I'm not gonna overpower him. Looks like he's on the tail hook, I believe. All right, come here, buddy. Get in the net, get in the net. There we go, buddy. My bail real quick. There we go. Hang on, buddy. Let me get my hand on that. There we go. All right, let me put you back in the water for a second. It's summer months, so I try to reduce the amount of time I have these bass out of the creek. So, all right, there we go. Man, he's not big, but he fought really hard. So, okay, get on back out there, buddy. Get on, buddy. I'll let you go. Come on. There you go. So we're on back over to your spot. Bye, buddy. Thanks for playing. All right, hey, we're getting bites quick. It's early, so maybe this is a perfect time to go ahead and try these topwater bites. So we're going to stick with this. I love it. Get back up here to some current. Seems like the bites I've had so far this morning are around current. So. There's a little pop of that, some type of brim or something. that was a good hit, but he missed it. Oh my gosh, that was a good fish. Dang, he missed it. And my hooks are good because I can tell it's swimming correct. Dang, that was a good bite. That was a really good bite. Let me go back up there and see if he'll give me one more shot. I don't think you will. Man, that was a good bite. Those topwater hits are so fun. I'm telling you, man, they're definitely, when it comes to hard plastics, those fish definitely give you fewer tries on the hard plastics than they do the soft plastic. But oh, got him, oh goodness, we got him. I think that's the same guy. That's the same guy, I'm pretty certain. I'm just gonna ease him. He's swimming downstream, so I'm not gonna fight him too hard. I'm gonna let him go downstream as he wants. I'm just watching my line, just keeping him pinned. There he goes. I don't want him jumping. He's just staying down. I haven't even seen him come up yet. There he is, I see him. It is a smallie. Come here, bud. Let me get you through this mud. I'll land you real fast. Come here, bud. I've got him on both hooks, so let me see real quick. Let me get that treble out from under there. Hang on, bud. There we go. Keep it right there for 1 second. There we go. Let me get you away from my hook. All right. I always use an abundance of caution. Probably a little more than I should, but I'm always feeling like you can never be too safe. Especially these guys are so dang mean. Golly. All right, man, he hit it good. He's not what is he? Well, he's 15, so very nice. Awesome. There you go, buddy. Get on back over there. Thanks, buddy. All right. He came back and nailed the 12 Oaks flat-sided Whopper Plopper. Whew. I think it's hard to see hit at it. I'm almost certain that's the same bite that I had earlier. The first bite. I think he came back and gave me a second shot at it. Very nice. That was a hard fighting fish. He was only 15, but man, I'm telling you, that's what's so fun about these creek smallies. They are strong as all get out. And man, he loved that 12 Oaks paint job. Check that thing out. Wow. I'm pretty certain, yeah, this has got to be it. This is that long section that I'm pretty certain this is going to be pretty deep. Yeah, good night. Yeah, that's more than 150 yards. That's over 200 yards. Maybe 225. So it looks deep. We'll see. I'm hoping once I get up in here, maybe I can navigate through it pretty easy, but it looked deep on the map. Now, granted, it could be that when Google took the picture, it was when the water was up, but it definitely looked dark. So I'm gonna say this is a deep section. Let's see. I sure hope I can get through it because above it looked like some really good fishing areas. All right, fishing family, you guys stay tuned for part 2. We'll see if I can navigate through this deep section, get to the other side, because according to the map, I'm pretty certain there's a honey hole on the other side if I can just get through this deep section. So we're gonna finish up our trip in Kentucky, fishing topwater, and we're gonna see if I get lucky in Kentucky. All right, guys, till next time, grab your poles, call your buddies, got to make some memories, give us some elbow. Boom! All right, guys, we'll see you on part 2.